Imagine standing under the blinding lights of a global stadium, surrounded by a purple ocean of tens of thousands of screaming fans, wearing designer outfits that cost more than a luxury car. We know them as the icons of a generation, the seven kings who turned a small, struggling agency into a multi-billion-dollar empire that rivals the biggest corporations on the planet. But long before the private jets, the sold-out world tours, and the historic speeches at the United Nations, there were 7 boys with 7 very different starting lines. Today, we aren't looking at the billions they've earned through their music and solo brand deals. Instead, we are pulling back the velvet curtain to explore the silent powerhouses, the families, the business dynasties, and the prestigious lineages that nurtured these legends before the world even knew their names. Is the legendary rags to riches story a universal truth for every member, or were some of these idols born with a silver spoon tucked safely into their cradle? We're embarking on a deeply reflective and emotional journey through the high-stakes corporate world of Seoul and the ancient, noble estates of the Korean countryside to discover the true social standing of the families behind the BTS phenomenon. Who among them descends from a bloodline that was once the richest in all of Korea for over 300 years? Whose father is a hidden titan in the high-tech industry, rubbing shoulders with the elite executives of global conglomerates? And whose childhood was defined by the humble, hard-working spirit of a farming family far from the glitz of the city? This is a documentary-style deep dive into the heritage, the quiet wealth, and the fascinating social backgrounds of the world's most famous group. We will uncover the secrets of their origins, the influence of their ancestors, and the reality of their upbringing in a society where family background often dictates one's destiny. Are you ready to see who truly sits at the top of the pyramid of family prestige? Let's begin this grand countdown and find out which member comes from the most affluent and powerful family circle in the history of BTS. Would you like me to proceed to the first point of our ranking, starting with number 7? Number 7, Kim Taehyung. The humble soil. A farmer's dream transformed. To truly understand the incredible journey of the man we now know as the visual king of K-pop, we have to travel far away from the flashing neon lights of Gangnam and deep into the quiet, earthy landscapes of Daegu and Geochang. While we often see him draped in the finest Gucci or Celine, the reality of Kim Taehyung's family background is perhaps the most grounded and humble of all the members, placing him at the start of our list not because of a lack of love, but because of a lack of traditional generational wealth. Imagine a young boy running through the dusty fields, his clothes stained with the earth of a farm, never once imagining that he would one day be the face of global luxury brands. Taehyung was born into a family of hard-working farmers, a lineage that for generations relied on the unpredictable cycles of nature rather than the predictable dividends of corporate stocks or high-rise real estate. In the socio-economic landscape of South Korea, farming is a noble profession, but it is one defined by grit, physical labor, and a constant struggle against the elements, a far cry from the silver spoon upbringing many might expect of a global superstar. For nearly 14 years, Taehyung lived a life that was deeply connected to his grandmother, who was the cornerstone of his childhood while his parents worked tirelessly to provide a future for their children. This wasn't a family with secret offshore accounts or a sprawling business empire. It was a family that understood the value of a single grain of rice and the importance of a hard day's work. His father, whom Taehyung frequently cites as his ultimate hero and role model, wasn't a CEO or a high-ranking government official. He was a man who worked with his hands, facing the hardships of life with a quiet dignity that would eventually shape Taehyung's own resilient character. Can you picture the emotional weight of a father who, despite having very little, supported his son's dream of becoming a saxophonist and later an idol, even when that dream seemed like an impossible fantasy for a farm boy? There were times in his early life when the financial path forward was uncertain, and the luxury of high-end education or expensive hobbies simply wasn't on the table. When we look at the historical context of his family, there are no records of noble titles or vast estates passed down through the centuries. Instead, there is the record of a family that stayed together through the leanest of times, proving that wealth isn't always measured by the balance in a bank account, but by the strength of the bond between 3 generations living under one modest roof. The family wealth in Taehyung's case was spiritual and emotional, a treasure trove of lessons learned from a grandmother who taught him how to be kind, and a father who taught him how to be a man of character. This background makes his current status as one of the highest-paid individuals in the entertainment industry even more profound. He didn't just inherit a fortune, he built a brand new legacy for a family that started with nothing but the soil beneath their feet. When Taehyung finally made it, one of the first things he did was use his earnings to support his family, moving them into a life of comfort they had never known, but the roots of the Kim family remain firmly planted in that humble farmhouse in Geochang. It is a story that brings tears to your eyes when you realize that this man, who now commands the attention of millions, once thought his entire life would be spent tending to crops just like his ancestors before him. The contrast between his past and present is a literal documentary of the Korean dream, where a boy from a lineage of laborers ascends to the throne of pop culture. Yet, in this specific ranking of family background and ancestral riches, Taehyung sits at number 7, representing the ultimate triumph of talent and hard work over inherited privilege. He is the living proof that you don't need a golden ticket from your parents to conquer the world, as long as you have the heart of a lion and the work ethic of a farmer. As we look back at his family's history, we see a narrative of struggle, sweat, and survival that makes his current success feel like a beautiful, well-earned miracle. Does it make you wonder how different his life would have been if he had stayed in those fields? And more importantly, who among the other members started their journey from a completely different social strata? The journey only gets more intense from here as we move from the humble farms of Daegu to families with much deeper pockets and more complex social standings. The next member on our list might surprise you with a family background that is a perfect blend of professional stability and hidden influence. Who is the next member who rose from a comfortable middle-class life to the heights of global fame, and what secrets does their family history hold that helped pave their way to the top? Number 6. Suga. The noble bloodline hidden behind the struggle of a modern dynasty. When we talk about Min Yoongi, the world immediately thinks of the dirt spoon narrative, the heartbreaking story of a young boy in Daegu who had to choose between eating a $2 bowl of noodles or taking the bus home. It is a story of grit that has inspired millions, but if we peel back the layers of history and look at the big family or the lineage he carries, here the story takes a fascinating and prestigious turn that many fans might not realize. You see, Suga belongs to the Yeoheung Min clan, a lineage that is nothing short of royalty in the context of Korean history. This isn't just any family. The Yeoheung Min clan was one of the most powerful and influential noble houses during the Joseon dynasty, producing multiple queens, including the famous Empress Myeongseong. While his immediate family in the 92nd and early 2000s faced significant financial hardships, the brand name of his family carries a weight of historical prestige that is almost unparalleled. Imagine the internal conflict of a young Yoongi, carrying the name of a noble clan while working part-time delivery jobs and suffering shoulder injuries just to keep his music dream alive. His father and mother were hard-working people who eventually found success in the restaurant business, but before that, they were part of the vast landscape of Daegu's middle to lower-class economic struggle. However, when we talk about the wealth of the extended family, we have to look at the social capital and the legacy that the Min family represents. In South Korea, being a Min from the Yeoheung lineage suggests a background of scholars, leaders, and elite figures. This is a family where education and honor were valued above all else, which explains why his parents were initially so resistant to his pursuit of hip-hop, a genre they saw as far removed from the dignified path of a Min descendant. There is a deep, reflective irony in the fact that Suga, who often raps about his Auguste D persona rising from the gutters of Daegu, actually has the blood of ancient nobility flowing through his veins. His brother, Min Jae, has also entered the world of high-end hospitality, showing that the family's entrepreneurial spirit and eye for quality run deep. While they may not have had a massive bank account during his trainee days, the extended Min family network in Daegu is one of respect and traditional standing. The narrative of Suga isn't just about escaping poverty, it's about reclaiming the glory of a name that was once whispered in the halls of palaces. Can you feel the tension in his early life? The pressure of a prestigious surname clashing with the reality of an empty refrigerator? This contrast is what makes Suga's family background so unique. It is a fallen nobility story that has been rewritten into a modern-day empire. His father, who once stood as a stern figure of traditional values, eventually became one of his son's biggest supporters, symbolizing the transition of the Min family from the old world of social hierarchy to the new world of global cultural dominance. Today, the Min wealth has been restored 1,000-fold, not through land or titles, but through the sheer genius of a son who refused to let his family's story end in struggle. When we look at the facts, his family's restaurant in Daegu became a pilgrimage site, showing the business acumen that had perhaps been dormant for a generation. Suga's story teaches us that even if your immediate circumstances are dire, the wealth of your ancestors' resilience and the prestige of your roots can be the fuel that drives you to become a king. He ranks at number 6 because while the Min name is historically massive, the actual liquid wealth of his immediate family during his upbringing was significantly lower than the heavy hitters we are about to discuss. But don't let that fool you. The social standing of a Yeoheung Min is a form of currency that money simply cannot buy in Korea. Are you ready to see how the list shifts from historical prestige to modern-day corporate stability? As we move up to number 5, we encounter a member whose family background represents the ideal stable, intellectual elite of Korean society, a family where education and professional respectability laid a golden foundation for a superstar. Who is this member, and how did their father's career as a respected professional shape the golden path they walk today? Number 5, Jungkook, the golden prodigy, where talent meets the steady heart of Busan. As we move higher into the ranks of the families behind the world's most powerful boy band, we have to travel south to the vibrant, energetic port city of Busan, specifically to the neighborhood of Mandeok-dong. Here, we find the roots of the Golden Maknae, a title that wasn't just earned on stage but was deeply embedded in the very DNA of the Jeon family long before the world knew his name. While some might assume a global star of his caliber came from a background of struggle or, conversely, extreme luxury, the reality of Jungkook's upbringing is a fascinating narrative of stable, middle-class comfort fueled by an extraordinary wealth of talent and artistic freedom. Imagine a household where the air was always thick with creativity and the pursuit of excellence. This was the environment cultivated by Jungkook's parents, who are often described by fans as legendary for their youthful energy and unwavering support. His father, a man of many hidden talents, wasn't a CEO of a conglomerate, but he possessed a different kind of wealth, the wealth of skill. Known for being a professional-level bowler and a gifted artist, his father's golden genes clearly laid the foundation for Jungkook's own multifaceted genius. Can you imagine the scene? A young boy watching his father paint with precision or master a sport with ease, learning that being the best isn't just about the money you have, but about the dedication you pour into your craft. The Jeon family represents the peak of professional stability in the thriving city of Busan. They were a family that had enough to ensure their children never felt the cold sting of want, allowing Jungkook to focus entirely on his burgeoning passions. Unlike the extreme financial pressures faced by some of his older bandmates, Jungkook's childhood was characterized by a sense of security that gave him the confidence to travel to Seoul alone at the tender age of 13. It takes a certain level of family stability, both emotional and financial, to allow a child to pursue a dream so far from home, knowing there is a safe harbor to return to if things go wrong. His older brother, Jeon Jung-hyun, also carries this artistic lineage, having become a well-known illustrator whose style is as distinct and refined as his younger brother's vocals. This wasn't a family struggling to pay the bills, they were a family investing in the human capital of their sons. In the hierarchy of Korean society, the Jeon family sat comfortably in that respected tier, where education, talent, and professional respect converged. But wait until you see the staggering shift in their family's wealth today, a shift that reflects the meteoric rise of their youngest son. The boy who grew up in a comfortable home in Mandeok-dong now owns a massive 3-story detached house in the elite neighborhood of Itaewon, valued at over 7.6 billion KRW, situated right next to the mansions of the most powerful chairman in South Korea, including the head of Samsung. He even made headlines for his incredible generosity, gifting a luxury apartment worth 4 billion KRW in the Yongsan district to his brother, a move that solidified the Jeon family as a new modern-day dynasty of wealth. When we reflect on his family background, we see a lineage that transitioned from the reliable comfort of a talented Busan family to the dizzying heights of global real estate moguls. They are the perfect example of how a foundation of stable, middle-class support can act as a launchpad for a rocket that never stops climbing. As we look at his family's journey, it's not just about the millions in the bank, it's about the emotional wealth of parents who recognized a once-in-a-century talent and had the means to let it flourish without the weight of poverty dragging it down. This earns Jungkook the number 5 spot, a family that was well off enough to dream and is now wealthy enough to own the very city they once looked up to. But as we climb even higher, we enter the territory of families with even more formal prestige and corporate influence. Who is the member whose father holds a position of such high professional respect that it shaped his very discipline and world-class leadership? The next name on our list brings us into the world of the intellectual and corporate elite, where the wealth is as much about social status as it is about the numbers on a balance sheet. Are you ready to discover the powerhouse family at number 4? Number 4, RM, the architect of intellect, a dynasty of corporate strategy and academic excellence. If we are to talk about the man who holds the weight of a global empire on his shoulders, we must look beyond the stage name and into the quiet, pristine streets of Ilsan, the planned city for South Korea's burgeoning elite, where Kim Namjoon's story truly begins. To understand the wealth of the Kim family, one must understand that in the hierarchy of modern Korean society, money is only one part of the equation. Real power lies in the intersection of corporate influence and intellectual prestige. Namjoon wasn't just a boy with a dream. He was a boy born into a lineage that valued the sharpness of the mind and the stability of the high-stakes corporate ladder. His father, a man of immense discipline and strategic vision, held a high-ranking executive position at SK Telecom, one of the 3 titans of South Korea's telecommunications industry, a role that signifies not just a paycheck, but a seat at the table of the country's modern economic architects. Imagine the dinner table conversations in the Kim household. They weren't about the struggle for survival, but about the nuances of global trends, the importance of linguistic mastery, and the relentless pursuit of being in the top 1% of the entire nation. His mother, an equally formidable figure in his upbringing, was the one who recognized his potential early on, investing in his education with a precision that would make a venture capitalist envious. She didn't just give him toys. She gave him the gift of English through the sitcom Friends, a move that would eventually allow him to stand before the United Nations and speak for a generation. This is a family that had the means to send their son to study in New Zealand at a young age, a luxury reserved for the upper middle class and elite families who are grooming their children for global leadership. Can you feel the atmospheric shift as we enter Namjoon's world? It is a world of quiet libraries, expensive tutoring, and the unspoken expectation that he would become a professor, a diplomat, or a high-flying CEO just like his father. The Kim wealth wasn't flashy or loud. It was the wealth of stability. The wealth of a family that lived in one of the most desirable residential districts, surrounded by the country's most intellectual minds. When Namjoon revealed he had an IQ of 148 and scored in the top 0.1% of the national mock exams, it wasn't a surprise to those who knew his background. It was the result of a lineage that had perfected the art of academic dominance. But here is where the narrative becomes truly emotional and reflective. Imagine the tension in a home built on corporate success when the golden son announces he wants to be a rapper. His parents, especially his mother, initially stood as the ultimate gatekeepers of the family's prestige, fearing that his pursuit of music would tarnish the perfect path they had laid out for him. The conflict wasn't about the money he could earn, but about the status he would lose. Yet, the resilience of his father and the intellectual curiosity of his mother are exactly what gave him the tools to navigate the cutthroat world of the music industry with the mind of a CEO. Today, the family's wealth has transformed from corporate salaries to a massive portfolio of art and real estate, with Namjoon becoming one of the most influential art collectors in the world, owning pieces that would be the envy of national museums. He moved from the stable comfort of Ilsan to the ultra-luxurious 9-1 Hanam, the Beverly Hills of Seoul, where he bought an apartment for nearly $6 million in cold, hard cash. His family background provided him with the cultural capital that most people spend a lifetime trying to acquire, the ability to speak, think, and lead with an authority that feels inherited. He ranks at number 4 because while his family was part of the corporate and intellectual elite, they were still part of the professional class rather than the owner class or the ancient aristocratic billionaires we are about to reveal. But make no mistake, the foundation laid by his executive father and his visionary mother created a leader who doesn't just perform. He strategizes, he collects, and he commands. Does it make you pause and wonder, if the leader of the group comes from such a refined academic and corporate background, who could possibly sit higher on this list? Who are the members whose families don't just work for the conglomerates, but might actually be the ones running the game or descending from even more ancient and staggering fortunes? The air is getting thinner as we climb to the top 3, where the wealth transitions from rich to legendary. Are you ready to see which member grew up with a background so prestigious that it feels like something out of a Korean drama? Number 3. Jimin, the Busan prince. From the shores of the sea to the pinnacle of high society. To understand the sheer magnitude of the family legacy behind the man with the most ethereal voice in the industry, we must travel to the bustling, salty-aired port city of Busan, a place where hard work and elegance collide in the most fascinating way. While the world sees Jimin as a delicate, high-fashion icon, his family background is a masterclass in professional stability and a quiet, formidable wealth that has deep roots in the industrial heart of Korea. The Park family isn't just a story of money, it is a story of prestige through education and entrepreneurship that set Jimin on a path of excellence from the very first day he stepped into a dance studio. Imagine a young boy growing up in a household where mediocrity was never an option. His father, Park Hyun-soo, is a figure of immense respect in the Busan community, a man who didn't just build a business, but built a reputation that precedes him. Long before Jimin became a global sensation, his family was part of that solid, upper-middle-class strata of Busan society that could afford to nurture a child's most expensive and elite passions. Jimin wasn't just talented, he was a prodigy whose family had the means to enroll him in the prestigious Busan High School of Arts, where he became the first student in the school's history to enter as the top performer in the modern dance department. Can you feel the weight of that? In South Korea, being the top of your class in a prestigious arts academy isn't just about talent, it's about the incredible investment of time, resources, and high-level training that only a well-off family can sustain. His family's wealth provided the safety net that allowed him to explore the most refined forms of art, from martial arts like kendo and taekwondo to the demanding world of contemporary dance. But the story of the Park family wealth takes an even more magnate-level turn as we look at their business ventures today. His father is the visionary behind the famous Magnate, recently rebranded as The Millennial Cafe in Busan, which isn't just a coffee shop, it's a sprawling, luxurious, industrial chic landmark that feels more like an art gallery or an elite lounge for the city's high flyers. This isn't a small family business, it's a destination that draws thousands of international visitors, a testament to the family's keen eye for high-end hospitality and brand management. But here is the most emotional part of the Park family legacy. They are a dynasty of philanthropists. In 2025, the Park family made history in South Korea's charity world when Jimin, his father, and even his younger brother, Park Ji-hyun, all became members of the Green Noble Club. This is an ultra-exclusive circle of high-value donors who have contributed at least 100 million KRW, roughly $75,000, to child welfare organizations. Think about that for a second. Not just the star, but the entire family has the liquid wealth and the moral compass to join a club that is essentially the who's who of Korea's most generous elite. This makes them a triple-threat family of wealth, influence, and heart. When we look at Jimin's own financial status, it mirrors this family prestige. He lives in the legendary 91 Hanam, an apartment complex so exclusive it's known as the home of billionaires and CEOs, which he purchased for nearly 5.9 billion KRW, about $5.3 million, entirely in cash. No loans, no mortgages, just the raw power of a man whose family taught him how to manage a legacy. Reflecting on his journey, we see that Jimin didn't come from a rags-to-riches background like Taehyung. Instead, he came from a riches-to-legend background. His family provided the golden foundation, the elite education, and the business acumen that allowed him to transform from a top student in Busan into a global prince of pop. The Park family represents the perfect blend of traditional Busan grit and modern-day economic dominance, making them one of the most respected and quietly powerful family circles in the BTS universe. They are the epitome of old-school stability meets new world fame. Yet, as staggering as the Park family's influence is, they are still ranked at number 3. Why? Because as we cross into the final 2 spots, we are no longer just talking about well-off families or successful entrepreneurs. We are entering the realm of the owner-class families with ties to global industries and lineages that have held power for centuries. Who are the 2 members whose family backgrounds are so legendary that they could give the chaebols of Korea a run for their money? The final countdown is about to begin, and the revelations will leave you breathless. Number 2, J-Hope. The Jung dynasty, a fashion empire built on grace and Gwangju grit. As we reach the penultimate spot on our countdown, we travel to the vibrant and culturally rich city of Gwangju, the birthplace of the hope of a generation. When we look at the Young family, we aren't just looking at traditional bank accounts. We are witnessing the rise of a modern-day lifestyle empire that has redefined what family wealth looks like in the 21st century. While J-Hope often portrays a humble and grounded persona, his family background is a fascinating blend of high-level academic respect and staggering entrepreneurial success that places them firmly in the elite circles of South Korean society. Imagine growing up in a home where the pursuit of knowledge and the pursuit of art were held in equal, high regard. His father, a deeply respected literature teacher in Gwangju, provided a foundation of intellectual stability and moral guidance that is often the hallmark of Korea's upper middle class. In a society that rears its children on the importance of education, being the child of a distinguished educator carries a specific kind of social wealth and respect that opens doors long before money even enters the conversation. But the story of the Young family wealth takes a sharp, dizzying turn into the stratosphere when we look at the Meji-woo phenomenon. J-Hope's older sister, Jung Ji-woo, is not just a sibling. She is a global fashion mogul and the CEO of multiple successful brands, including the iconic AJ Look and Meji-woo. Can you imagine the power dynamic of a family where both siblings are titans in their respective fields? Ji-woo's business empire is so vast that she has millions of dedicated followers and has even signed with major entertainment conglomerates like Cube Entertainment to expand her fashion influence. This isn't just a small boutique, it's a multi-million-dollar venture that has turned the Young name into a brand synonymous with style and luxury across Asia. This modern dynasty means that the family's wealth isn't just sitting in a vault, it is living, breathing, and expanding through global trade and digital influence. J-Hope himself has always shown a keen, sophisticated sense of business and investment, often being cited as the member with the most significant personal real estate and investment portfolio, including a luxury suite in the famous Trimage complex, known as the home of CEOs and elite celebrities. But what makes this narrative truly emotional is the reflection on how this wealth was built. It wasn't handed to them on a silver platter, it was cultivated through the Gwangju spirit, a relentless work ethic that J-Hope and his sister inherited from their parents. His mother, a woman of quiet strength who once worked far from home to support her son's dreams, now stands at the center of a family that has achieved the ultimate dream of financial and social liberation. Reflect on the sheer intensity of their success. A father who shaped minds, a sister who shapes global fashion trends, and a son who shaped the world's music scene. They represent the new elite of South Korea families who have used their talents and intellect to build fortunes that rival the ancient clans. In the streets of Gwangju, the Young family is spoken of with a mixture of awe and pride, not just for their money, but for the way they have maintained their grace and connection to their roots while building a multinational legacy. The family's wealth is evident in their lifestyle, their global travels, and their ability to influence industries outside of music. When J-Hope releases a solo project or his sister launches a new collection, the Jung effect is felt worldwide, proving that their family background is a powerhouse of creative and economic energy. He ranks at number 2 because the combination of his father's academic prestige and his sister's massive corporate success creates a family unit that is incredibly wealthy in both the traditional and modern sense of the word. They are a family that owns their destiny, proving that the wealth of talent, when managed with the precision of the Youngs, can build an empire that lasts for generations. But as we stand on the threshold of number 1, you have to ask yourself, if a fashion mogul sister and an elite educator father only get you to the second spot, who on earth could be at the top? Who is the member whose family background is so shrouded in corporate mystery and high-stakes power that it feels like he walked straight out of a script for the wealthiest 1% of the 1%? The final revelation is about to change everything you thought you knew about the origins of BTS. Are you ready for the ultimate reveal of the wealthiest family in the history of the group? Number 1. Jin. The CEO lineage. A world of high-tech titans and untouchable corporate power. And finally, we reach the summit, the very peak of our countdown, where the air is thick with the scent of high-stakes boardrooms and the silent, invisible power of the South Korean corporate elite. To talk about Kim Seokjin is to talk about a level of family wealth that feels less like a K-pop story and more like a high-budget K-drama about the lives of the 0.1% chaebol class. While Jin has always carried himself with a playful, worldwide handsome humor, there is an undeniable aura of aristocratic refinement that flows through his veins, an aura that comes from being born into a family of true industrial giants. Imagine a world where your father isn't just a businessman, but a high-ranking CEO of a major company that supplies essential components to global conglomerates like Samsung. This isn't just well-off. This is the kind of wealth that moves the gears of a nation's economy. For years, the identity of his father's company was guarded like a state secret, but the whispers in the elite circles of Anyang and Seoul always pointed to a man of immense influence, a leader who navigates the cutthroat world of international trade and high technology with the same precision that Jin uses to hit those silver voice high notes. Can you feel the atmospheric weight of his childhood? A young Seokjin didn't grow up worrying about the future. He grew up being groomed for excellence in an environment where success was the baseline. His family background is so prestigious that even during his trainee days, when the other members were struggling to afford basic meals, Jin was the one who would often step in, using his family's resources and his own allowance to buy food for the younger boys, essentially acting as the financial backbone and the big brother, even before the fame arrived. He didn't just bring talent to the group, he brought the stability of a family that had already mastered the art of power. But the Kim wealth doesn't stop with his father. His brother, Kim Sok-jung, is a formidable entrepreneur in his own right, having partnered with Jin to open Osusero Mushi, a high-end Japanese restaurant near Lottie World that caters to the city's most discerning palates. This shows a family that understands how to diversify wealth across generations, blending industrial power with luxury hospitality. Reflect on the sheer scale of his lifestyle. Even before the BTS billions, Jin was traveling to Australia for language exchanges and living a life of quiet luxury that most people only see on television. When he finally decided to invest his own earnings, he didn't just buy an apartment. He bought a 4.4 billion KRW, nearly $4 million residence in the ultra-exclusive Hanam the Hill, known as the most expensive apartment complex in all of South Korea, and he did it as a gift for his parents. Think about the emotional depth of that gesture, a son from a family of titans, proving that he has built his own empire that can stand shoulder to shoulder with the one he was born into. This is why Jin stands undisputed at number 1. His family represents the pinnacle of modern Korean social standing, the owner class, that possesses not just liquid cash, but corporate influence, high-level connections, and a lineage of leadership that spans decades. He is the Prince of BTS, not just because of his looks, but because he was raised in the halls of corporate royalty, learning the discipline and the grace that only a truly elite background can provide. As we conclude this grand narrative, we see that while all 7 members have built their own massive fortunes, Jin's starting line was already miles ahead in the world of high society. Does it make you look at him differently now, seeing the chaebol heir who chose the hard path of an idol over the easy path of a corporate successor? He is the ultimate proof that even if you are born with a silver spoon, it is your own heart and hard work that determine your true legacy. This concludes our deep dive into the fascinating, wealthy, and prestigious worlds of the families behind the world's biggest group. From the humble farms of Geochang to the corporate skyscrapers of Seoul, their backgrounds are as diverse as their music, proving that greatness can come from anywhere, but it certainly helps when you have the strength of a powerful family behind you.